Russ, is your microphone on?
There we go. Thank you. If I could please get a motion to approve the minutes from April 15th. Get a second, please. There have been motion and a second. If there aren't any corrections or questions, all in favor? Okay. Thank you. We have one piece that's coming before us today, and we have a special guest to share not just on this piece, but on what I believe is a potential for our city when we look at ways to define ourselves, collaborate with one of our core community partners, and find new economic generating opportunities. The piece coming before us is a resolution, and it's congratulating the 2019 University of Akron Zips Esports Rocket League Gold Team for winning the 2019 NCAA Esports Championship. It commends the players, their coaches, the staff, administrators, and fans, and wishing the team well and declaring an emergency. And what we have with us today, their head coach, Coach Michael Fay, and I'm going to ask him to just share about the program and just the whole, if you're not familiar with the industry of esports and the potential that it brings. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. So for those of you who aren't familiar with esports, the way I like to explain it is esports is the use of electronic systems to test one's skills against a live human opponent. So when I was a kid, I liked to test my basketball skills against other kids in the neighborhood, and it turns out they weren't that great. So I went back home and I played video games, and as the internet advanced, now the internet allows the opportunity for kids all over the country to get connected and test their skills against millions of other competitors in some of the most popular games. And one of the challenges that we see with that, and that we see with a lot of digital media, is that it also ends up kind of isolating our community members, because the internet will connect you with anyone, but it won't necessarily connect you with who you're living with in your local community. And what we've found in the past year that the esports program has been formed at the University of Akron is we've had over 1,400 students who never knew each other before that year come out into our physical gaming facilities and get to know each other, start to form clubs, and start competing and representing the University of Akron in intercollegiate competition in all of the most popular games. And so in the past year, we've had almost 16 new clubs formed, about 700 students actively participating. And when we first started, a lot of them were asking us, are you sure there are any other students who like competing in video games? And now we have hundreds of them that have all met each other. So it's been a really fantastic phenomenon we've experienced.
Thank you. Coach Fay and I had a discussion, because I've been in conversation with Athletic Director for Akron Public Schools, Mr. Joe Vasilati. Akron Public Schools, I think, has one esport team.
That's correct.
If I'm not mistaken. And in our discussion, just to give you an example, this past week we had the Drew Joyce tournament here. Those families came from all across the country, and since they were in this area, they probably said, since we're here, let's go to the Football Hall of Fame or to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But what do we have to keep them here in Akron? And when we look at the University of Akron, and in the resolution that we have, it mentions that you guys are the first team to go to the Final Four back-to-back.
That's correct.
And then to win the national championship. In our hometown, on the campus of the University of Akron, we have the best team in the nation, and in a fledgling sport industry. For those that don't know, the esports, and it's the gaming more so incorrectly, because it's one of those games, I don't know which one it is, but their viewership during their championship is larger than the Super Bowl.
That's correct. And by 2020, esports revenue is estimated to hit $1.2 billion worldwide.
$1.2 billion up the street. People who have invested in esports teams, which right now they're saying esports teams are going to surpass in value NHL hockey teams. You have people who are invested are Dan Gilbert, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Magic Johnson, just to name a few people that have invested in these games. You could turn on Business Channel, and Forbes has a whole business channel talking about esports. So, you know, when we talk about council coming together and just visioning, coming up with a plan for, you know, just what would we like Akron to look like? This past weekend, there was the thing in the paper about the community doing that. Here is a chance for us to partner with a great community partner looking at the industry of esports. If we were to build out like they did and create a esport facility that got involved in all the virtual opportunities for us as an industry. So I am thankful that Coach Fay was willing to come down. This evening we'll have the team come down so we could acknowledge them. And one of the things that we've also talked about is on the university's campus, and I'm going to ask you to expound on this to whatever degree you can. You know, with gaming, there are potential health risks or social, how would you say it?
Yeah, so I would say that there are, there are issues around gaming, particularly at an early age when it comes to social development, also attention, and one of the things that I find really interesting is when we think about other, leisure activities such as sports, those are engaged with in a constructive sense through athletics from a very early age. However, when we let young people just kind of go online and play video games with whoever they might meet on the internet, that's not an activity that's engaged critically in any way when it's done in a leisure setting.
So what we have here is, from our city standpoint, is not just creating and building out from the recreational and creating a destination for engaging in the industry of gaming, but also positioning ourselves to really look at the best practice part of gaming, where people will come here for that. So I just, again, want to thank Coach Fay for coming down. I'll open it up now in case there's some questions. Miss Amin? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss you, Miss? No. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Moby.
I'm just curious, if I were a parent and I wanted you to tell me what my child would be doing, tell me what a room or what it would look like. I mean, that would help me figure out what we are talking about here.
Sure, yeah, so the room would look very much like a computer lab, but one of the major differences being that there would be a lot more facilitated activity around the interactions between the different gamers, right? So the difference between esports as opposed to playing alone in your room is that you actually have a team of people that you bond with and you have to overcome obstacles together. When you're playing online, you just go from one team to the next with a bunch of strangers and you never really get any informative, critical opportunities to examine, how to overcome a conflict with somebody else, and how to, communicate clearly, how to have strong leadership. And these are all skills that can be taught through the mechanism of competing in esports, but are not necessarily done so in an independent setting. So we get the students together in a team context where they have a coach who's directing their strategy, helping them to negotiate interpersonal conflicts, and engaging growing a lot of those critical social and leadership skills that they might on a traditional sports team. Yep, they're all in the same room. And that's something that's hugely appealing to the students. They really, they could all be playing online from home, but they really love the opportunity to be next to each other, right? To be able to high-five each other when they get a win, to be able to celebrate and hear each other hooting and hollering. It's a huge aspect of the camaraderie that comes along with being part of a team. Yeah.
Sam.
So the chair mentioned that you guys are the national champions. What kind of games seem to be the drivers for your esports? Are you playing like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter? Because
Sure.
if you are, can I get in?
Yeah, so we only have 5 games that are supported at the varsity level right now. They are a wide variety of games. Some of them are strategy games, some of them are shooting games, some of them are card games. We have a really, really vibrant fighting game club where we have students who compete in Mortal Kombat and Tekken, and we host events every single weekend. We have students come from Bowling Green, we have students come from Kent State, just to be able to get together with other competitors And so we've actually, just 2 weeks ago, hosted a collegiate invitational. We had almost every single school with an esports program in Ohio come here to Akron to compete for the championship title. And so that's something that we're really interested in doing, is just fostering that same
Right,
growth for all of those games.
Right. And what's the average age of the gamers?
Well, so for us at Collegiate, obviously, we're working mostly with 18 to 24-year-olds, but for the most part, we see the population of young people interested in gaming can range anywhere from 12 to 34. And as the first generations of gamers are getting older and older, right? They are, raising families of gamers, and so I anticipate that becoming more and more of a trend going forward.
So no Game of Thrones? No Game of Thrones?
No Game of Thrones now.
Just checking. I might want to participate in that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anyone else? I have a couple things I want to say about that. Go ahead.
This is a chance for Akron to do something amazing. A good buddy of mine, Dr. with the university, informed me about the esports program.
Use Tara's microphone real quick. Just stand there. Thank you.
Well, he informed me about the whole esports program before it started. Listen, man, I'm a 30-year-old father and a pizza guy. Man, I'll run you guys on some of these games, man. So I'm telling you that the idea of being a nerd or being a one, no, man, I've made some amazing friends around the world. There's this British dude that I've played Madden with for 15 years online. There's amazing opportunities, amazing skills. There's a little game I play right now called it's like Clash of Clans. And I've been on this game for years, but believe it or not, there's certain things in some of these games that can be translated into real life and used as real examples to teach and to get across to these children, to younger folks, older folks. I mean, I can go back and talk about how in 1991 I was playing with Super Mario with my father, but we can put Akron back on the map for something great. In China, it's $1 billion industries. They built a multi-million-dollar facility to hold games, and as Mr. Neal mentioned with Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal owns one of these teams, and he's making more money. I mean, can you imagine the revenue that could stimulate? Imagine the Mac video game competition held in Akron. Imagine a giant 50-foot screen right there at Infocision Stadium. Imagine if Kent State got to do it first.
And that's something that we are seeing some cities do already. So it's important to note, for the first time we went to nationals, we actually traveled to Arlington, Texas, where the city of Arlington has already built an esports stadium where they have recreational gaming facilities at the entrance to their stadium where customers, young people, families can pay hourly to rent state-of-the-art gaming PCs and access these games for free. And you can hold community events and tournaments there. And yeah, just in general, gaming has a tremendous potential to plug people back into their local communities if there is a local in-person opportunity to engage in gaming instead of doing it entirely online.
Well, Coach Fay, something I want to mention to this group too, the potential of understanding just the whole gaming industry and the potential for us as a city is it's unlimited. And I want to mention somebody that some of you may know. Akron's own Dr. Butch Rouser, Dana Mitchell Rouser's husband. Dr. Rouser is featured on Dr. Oz. He's the resident physician on Dr. Oz. Dr. Butch Rouser created a technique to teach physicians how to do surgery through gaming. Dr. Rouser wants to bring that technology back to Akron. He's pitched it to the Akron Public Schools. He's been engaged with a lot of different people. He's now working with the University of Akron and the Black Male Summit, Sister Jolene Lane. Mm-hmm. So even in Akron, we have our own state-of-the-art, cutting-edge from here. So I bring this to us because council has the right to form exploratory committees. Working with the administration, this is something, and teaming with the University of Akron, we need to have a team that looks at. I know I talked to Melvin Blake in Park and Recreation. He's in our Park and Recreation department. So there is some look and some discussion on some level, but I don't think it's to the degree that, just briefly, Coach Fay and I've had a chance talk about, and what Dr. Rosser has brought to us, and that is the unlimited, and what you just shared, the unlimited potential for us as a city to create an opportunity for us to be a destination spot, so that when people come here, they won't just pass through Akron going to Canton or going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They say, hey, we got to go check out the eSport place. And I don't do eSports, but every once in a while I'll go to Laser Quest out in Montrose, and I'll team up with some people that I don't even know because I like playing Laser Quest. So I can just imagine what it's like on the eSports. So with that, Mr. Fusco, did you have something you want to say, sir? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. The question, now, I'd seen that there's a location over there on East Market Street. Is that part, kind of near the, excuse me, there's a vacant parking lot in between the Art Museum and I believe it's Arts Now. There's, you know what I'm talking about, on East Market Street?
Yeah, I believe that's like a hobby shop, like trading cards and board games and things like that.
It's similar but different?
Yeah, so it's just not electronic.
Okay.
So,
I'm just curious. I've never been in there.
Very similar user populations.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know, we find a lot of students that enjoy playing those types of fantasy board games and things like that also enjoy playing fantastical video games. Yeah.
Very good. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And also, just kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Neal said, you know, at the bounce facility that we have, I know that they're looking at something akin to this.
Yeah, so there is a facility. It'll be opening at the end of May. It'll have 24 state-of-the-art gaming PCs arranged in a very similar fashion to how we have at the University of Akron. And it'll also have an event space right across the hall. So it would be a very great, you know, microcosm for exploring some of the opportunities around
Absolutely.
sports. Yeah.
And to watch how that grows. The other piece of it, though, is at the bounce facility also, we had a company from Israel working with the, and I don't know where they're at, it's been just a couple years, but working with Children's Hospital in terms of utilizing technology somewhat similar to this in terms of physical therapy for children. And so there's a lot of tentacles, if you will, that can outgrow from things like this. So it's a great discussion and something that we need to keep our eye on and try to grow. So agreed.
Definitely. Thank you.
Ms. Mobian?
I'm listening to all of the upside of this. What are some of the concerns you have? Are there any things that we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, so there are a few particular issues that we in our program are particularly mindful of when it comes to participation in esports. One is definitely activity levels, right? So, you know, if we look at the comparison to traditional sports, we're learning a lot about, you know, concussions and how we may have been putting our, you know, young people in danger for several years because of their participation in sport. At the same time, we're learning a lot now about how, you know, sitting is the new smoking, right? And so in many cases, we are asking students to be sedentary for an extended period of time. Now, I don't think that'll always be the case for esports, because once virtual reality becomes more widespread, people can be active and play games at the same time. But we look very closely at how to make sure that our students are staying active. All of our varsity players do 3 hours a week of physical fitness training. They do yoga to help maintain good posture so they get better blood circulation while they're playing, things like that. Another issue is diversity. So we see very systemic differences in the populations of students that play certain types of games, and also the level of competitiveness that they play those games. And so we try our best to make sure that we cater to all the games possible under the sun so that there isn't a single opportunity missed. And I think that would be something that going forward we'd have to examine very critically.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Well, I would like to mention this. I'm a big-time Cleveland Browns fan, and I was watching the program, and it had Baker Mayfield on there, and it talked about how he and his father would get into arguments because Baker played Halo. He would sit there playing Halo a lot, and he attributes playing Halo to his ability to make quick decisions on the football field.
Yeah.
So, I mean, based on how you use something, it can always be a pro or a con. But I want to, on behalf of the committee, I want to thank you for coming in. Again, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
But thank you for coming in and just opening our eyes to the potential. And it's with my hope, with some of the things that Councilman Fusco mentioned and things you mentioned that, and things that you mentioned, that we can, like I said, form a diverse group of folks to really explore this and look at the opportunities from an economic generator side, entertainment side, and then even becoming a best practice center where people will come here and we'll be the epicenter of esports, and hopefully at least in the Midwest. So again, if
What's the typical cost of participating in something like this at the level you're talking about?
For students,
Yeah.
the students participate for free so long as they're in good academic standing. And that was particularly important to us because of the fact that we do see huge differences in participation based on socioeconomic status. And so removing that barrier to entry and providing equal access to everybody is a hugely important aspect of the program.
Okay, thank you.
again, thanks, Coach Fay. It's been a pleasure. Just the short period of time, you know, I've been able to get to know you. Look forward to growing our relationship personally, but also from a standpoint of this whole council as well. So if there's nothing else to come before us, if there aren't any other questions, we will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.
We think.